Constitution of India, adopted on November 26, 1949, signifies the culmination of a protracted and meticulous process led by the Constituent Assembly. This day is celebrated as Constitution Day or Samvidhan Divas in India.
I propose to make this appeal. Let us leave aside slogans. Let us leave aside words which frighten people. Let us even make concession to the prejudices of our opponents. Bring them in so that they may willingly join with us on marching upon that road, which, as I said, if we walk long enough, must necessarily lead us to unity.
The constitutional framework of a nation invariably rests upon the bedrock of its historical evolution. In the case of the Constitution of India, the foundation was not hastily laid, rather its construction commenced several decades before the country achieved independence in 1947. The roots of this constitutional odyssey extend back to 1858. However, it is crucial to recognize that these legislative measures primarily serve the interests of the colonial rulers. The trajectory gained momentum in the post-World War II era, particularly with the Cripps Mission of 1942, which marked a pivotal acknowledgement of the imperative need for an Indian constitution. This mission underscored the changing circumstances, reflecting a global shift and compelling the British government to recognize the urgency of addressing constitutional matters in India. Who then were the makers of the Indian Constitution, and who played an important role in making the Constitution? In 1934, Manabendranath Roy proposed the idea of a Constituent Assembly. Subsequently, the demand for the Constituent Assembly gained momentum, finding a place in the Congress manifesto for the 1936-37 elections. The call for a Constituent Assembly intensified, coinciding with the outbreak of the Second World War in 1939. The drafting of the document called the Constitution was done by an assembly of elected representatives called the Constituent Assembly. On November 15, 1939, C. Rajagopalachari advocated for a Constituent Assembly based on adult franchise, a proposal accepted by the British in August 1940. Viceroy of India, Lord Linlithgow, suggested resolving India's constitutional future after the war through the establishment of a representative Constituent Assembly, inclusive of the principal elements in India's national life. In 1942, the British government dispatched a 3-member delegation led by Senior Minister Sir Stafford Cripps to garner complete Indian cooperation and support during World War II. Cripps aimed to maintain India's allegiance to the British war effort, promising elections and dominion status post-war. Despite these efforts, the mission faltered, facing dissatisfaction from native Indians due to the inadequacy of the proposed solution. In 1946, the Cabinet Mission Plan arrived in India to facilitate the transfer of power from the British government to Indian leadership, focusing on maintaining India's unity and granting it independence. The mission conducted preparatory discussions with elected representatives of British India and Indian states to reach an agreement on the constitution framing process. Elections to the Constituent Assembly were held in July 1946. Its first meeting was held in December 1946 after the partition. India comprised 2 territories under British rule, British India and the princely states. The Constituent Assembly, formed based on population, initially had 389 representatives, with one representing every 10 lakh people. This number was later reduced to 299 after the partition of India. Initially, princely states chose not to participate, anticipating the creation of independent states after the British departure. As there was no universal adult franchise at that time, the Constituent Assembly could not have directly chosen by all the people of India. Instead, it was primarily elected by members of the existing provincial legislatures. This approach ensured fair representation geographically and across various political groups, resulting in a diverse mix of opinions from all regions, castes, classes, religions, and occupations. India has consistently acknowledged the crucial role of women in nation building, as evidenced by the active participation of female members in the Constituent Assembly. Prominent figures like Sarojini Naidu, Hansa Mehta, Durgabai Deshmukh, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur. Meanwhile, key figures including Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, C. Rajagopalachari, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Purushottam Mavalankar, along with eminent jurists like Alladi Krishnaswamy Iyer, Benegal Narsingh Rao, K.M. Munshi, and Ganesh Mavalankar played pivotal roles in shaping the Constitution. The manner in which the Constituent Assembly operated further adds sanctity to the Constitution, not confined to reflecting individuals' perspectives. The Constitution embodies a broad consensus of its time. Unlike many nations that had to rewrite their constitutions due to agreements, our Constitution has remained resilient. Despite various groups questioning specific provisions over the last 50 years, the legitimacy of the Constitution itself has never been contested by any significant social group or political party, marking it as an exceptional achievement in constitutional history. On November 20, 1946, a decision was made to convene the inaugural session of the Constituent Assembly. Subsequently, the Assembly's members gathered for the first time on December 9, 1946. Dr. Sachidanand Sinha served as the initial temporary president for the two-day session. The second session of the Constituent Assembly convened on December 11, 1946, where Dr. Rajendra Prasad assumed the presidency. Harendra Kumar Mukherjee became the vice president, and Benegal Narsingh Rao was appointed as the constitutional advisor. During the third meeting on December 13, 1946, Jawaharlal Nehru introduced the objective resolution outlining the fundamental principles of the Constitution. Subsequently, on January 22, 1947, the Constituent Assembly unanimously endorsed this resolution, officially adopting it as the preamble of the Constitution. The Constituent Assembly appointed a total of 13 committees to address various aspects of constitution making. Among these, 8 were categorized as major committees, while the rest were designated as minor committees. Drafting Committee, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Union Powers Committee, Jawaharlal Nehru. Union Constitution Committee, Jawaharlal Nehru. Provincial Constitution Committee, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Advisory Committee on Fundamental Rights, Minorities and Tribal and Excluded Areas, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. This committee had the following subcommittees: Fundamental Rights Subcommittee, J.B. Kriplani. Minorities Subcommittee, Harendra Kumar Mukherjee. Northeast Frontier Tribal Areas and Assam Excluded and Partially Excluded Areas, Subcommittee, Gopinath Bardoloi. Excluded and Partially Excluded Areas other than those in Assam, Subcommittee, A.V. Thakkar. Rules of Procedure Committee, Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Steering Committee, Dr. Rajendra Prasad. The Constituent Assembly operated with systematic openness and consensus, dedicating 2 years, 11 months and 18 days to accomplish its historic task of drafting India's Constitution. Across 11 sessions spanning a total of 165 days, the Assembly spent 114 days meticulously considering the draft constitution. This involved several rounds of in-depth discussions, examining each clause methodically. Over 2,000 amendments were taken into consideration during this thorough deliberation. The final version of the constitution was officially passed and adopted by the Constituent Assembly on November 26, 1949. During the final session of the Assembly on January 24, 1950, the members affixed their signatures to 2 copies of the document, each in Hindi and English. The national anthem, Jana Gana Man, and the first 2 verses of Vande Mataram were formally adopted as the national song. The Constitution was officially inaugurated on January 26, 1950, marking the establishment of Republic Day in India. Initially, Republic Day celebrations occurred at various locations such as Red Fort, National Stadium, Kingsway Camp and Ramlila Ground between 1950 and 1954. However, in 1955, Rajpath was designated as the permanent venue for Republic Day celebrations. During the inaugural Republic Day parade in 1950, the members of the Constituent Assembly also adopted the national anthem Jana Gana Man, written by Rabindranath Tagore in Bengali and later translated into Hindi. Additionally, the Constituent Assembly transitioned to become the Parliament of India under the new Constitution's provisional. The original Constitution of India, a masterpiece of calligraphy, was meticulously handwritten by Prem Bihari Narayan Raizada and Vasant Krishnan Vaidya. Every page carries the ideals and aspirations of India's founding fathers. The Constitution was adorned by artists from Kala Bhavan, Shanti Niketan, including Nandalal Bose and his students, along with Vyawhar Ram Manohar Sinha. On January 26, 1950, 2 days after completion, the Constitution officially became the governing law for all states and territories of India. Every document and word spoken in the Constituent Assembly was meticulously recorded and preserved, known as the Constituent Assembly debates, spanning 12 voluminous records. These debates serve as a crucial resource, offering the rationale behind each constitutional provision and aiding in the interpretation of the Constitution's meaning. The Indian Constitution is often regarded as a global constitution and stands as the supreme law of India. Serving as a living document, it acts as the foundational instrument that governs the country's system. This comprehensive character delineates essential political principles, defines the structure and functions of government institutions, and outlines fundamental rights, directive principles, and citizen duties. Remarkably, it holds the distinction of being the world's lengthiest written constitution for a sovereign nation. At its commencement, the Constitution comprised 395 articles across 22 parts, 8 schedules, and encompassed nearly 80,000 words. On January 26, 1950, the Constituent Assembly transformed into a provisional Parliament of India, functioning until the establishment of the new Parliament in 1952. Beyond drafting the Constitution and passing regular laws, the Constituent Assembly undertook crucial functions. It ratified India's entry into the Commonwealth in May 1949, adopted the national flag on July 22, 1947, and selected the national song on January 24, 1950. Moreover, it elected Dr. Rajendra Prasad as the first President of India on January 24, 1950. Recognized as the architect of the Indian Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar played a pivotal role in its formulation. This Constitution delineates the framework, processes, powers, and responsibilities of government institutions, outlining fundamental rights, directive principles, and citizens' duties to their homeland. The Constitution serves as the foundation for collective efforts to construct a new and free India, as envisioned by Ambedkar. As we conclude our exploration of the making of the Indian Constitution, let's reflect on the profound words of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar spoken in 1948. He encapsulated the spirit of the Constitution in his concluding remarks, stating, that the Constitution is workable, flexible and strong enough to hold the country together both in peacetime and in wartime. Indeed, if I may say so, if things go wrong under the new Constitution, the reason will not be that we had a bad Constitution. What we will have to say is that man was vile. These words resonate as a timeless reminder that the strength of our Constitution lies not just in its text but in the collective responsibility of the citizens it governs. The Constitution serves as a sturdy anchor, steering the nation through the diverse challenges of its journey. It is not just a set of rules but a product of collective wisdom, diverse representation and meticulous drafting process.